There are moments when a choice made instinctively reveals more about you than years of conscious reflection. Not because the choice is clever or symbolic, but because it happens before fear, morality, or self-image intervene, before judgment, before explanation. You are standing in front of one of those moments now. In front of you there are 4 snakes. They are not here to provoke shock, danger, or fascination for their own sake. Each one carries a distinct psychological force, a specific relationship with transformation, awareness, and inner truth. Before your mind begins to associate meaning, threat, beauty, or myth, pause. Breathe. Let your body notice first. Observe which snake draws your attention without effort. Attraction, discomfort, curiosity, resistance, or a quiet alertness. That reaction matters. Do not interpret it. Do not compare it. Do not justify it. The moment you explain your choice is the moment you move away from what this experience is designed to reveal. Long before you learned how to label emotions or organize meaning, your inner system already knew how to detect change, danger, and opportunity. The unconscious does not speak in moral language. It communicates through sensation, instinct, and silent recognition. It does not argue. It responds. This is why the choice you are making now is not random. Whether you are aware of it or not, it reflects a dominant psychological process operating in your life at this moment. As you observe the snakes, notice your internal responses. Perhaps your body tightens. Perhaps you feel alert. Perhaps there is a strange familiarity. Do not correct any of it. In depth psychology, even aversion carries information. Sometimes we are drawn not to comfort, but to transformation. This experiment works because it bypasses rational control and reaches a deeper layer of the psyche, the layer where change begins before intention, where identity sheds old skins without explanation, and where growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels liberating. Many people resist transformation not because it is wrong, but because it threatens what is familiar. The snake does not negotiate with familiarity. It sheds when the time comes. Now, choose. Do not announce it. Do not explain it. Simply recognize internally which snake called you. Hold that image without forcing meaning onto it. Each snake represents a different way of relating to change, fear, power, and inner renewal. No choice is better or worse. Each one reveals a psychological strategy the mind has developed to survive periods of transition and uncertainty. This is not a test to predict your future. It is not a label for your personality. It is an invitation to recognize what within you is ready to shed its skin. If the first snake was the one that immediately captured your attention, there is within you a strong relationship with transformation. You sense when something has ended, even if it still looks alive on the surface. You may not always know what comes next, but you know when staying the same becomes heavier than changing. This snake symbolizes intuitive renewal, the ability to release identities, habits, or attachments without needing full certainty. People aligned with this snake often experience several internal rebirths throughout life. You do not cling easily to old versions of yourself. Growth, for you, is not linear. It is cyclical. Endings arrive quietly, and when they do, resistance only prolongs discomfort. Your challenge is not letting go. It is trusting the pause between what was and what will be. Transformation rarely explains itself in advance. Stay with this recognition for a moment. Do not rush to define yourself. This process is not about fixing who you are. It is about noticing what is already changing beneath the surface. If this resonated with you, write in the comments, "I am ready to shed." And if you want to continue this psychological journey deeper into transformation, fear, and inner renewal, subscribe. Some insights only emerge when you stay long enough to let the old skin fall away. If the second snake was the one that quietly held your attention, your relationship with change is cautious and controlled. You do not resist transformation, but you approach it slowly, measuring risk, sensing danger before moving. This snake represents awareness sharpened by experience. You have learned that not every change is safe, and not every invitation to evolve is meant to be accepted immediately. You observe before you act. You test the ground. You listen to subtle signals others ignore. While some rush into reinvention, You prefer to understand the cost. This gives you discernment. You rarely abandon yourself impulsively. When you shed a skin, it is because you are certain it no longer protects you. But caution, when it becomes constant, can delay growth. Holding on too long to what once worked can slowly turn protection into confinement. You may feel ready internally, yet hesitate externally. Change waits and tension builds in the body. This snake teaches timing, but also asks you to recognize when readiness has already arrived. Safety does not always mean staying still. Sometimes it means trusting your capacity to adapt. Now, if the third snake was the one that drew you in, your psyche relates to power through intensity. You feel transformation viscerally. Change does not whisper to you, it shakes you. You are drawn to experiences that force truth to the surface, even when they are uncomfortable. This snake represents confrontation with what is hidden. You do not fear depth. You sense when something is being avoided and feel compelled to face it. There is a raw honesty in the way you engage with yourself. Growth for you is not gradual. It is catalytic. When change comes, it comes fully, demanding attention. Yet here, too, there is a shadow. Intensity can become overwhelming. Constant confrontation leaves little space for integration. When everything feels urgent, the nervous system never fully rests. Transformation requires not only exposure, but digestion. Not everything needs to be faced at once. Some truths unfold more gently when allowed time. This snake invites balance. To honor your courage without exhausting yourself. To remember that shedding can happen in layers, not all at once. As you reflect on these movements, notice how each snake reveals a different relationship with change. One intuitive, one cautious, one intense. None of them are wrong. Each becomes limiting only when it dominates the inner landscape. According to Alan Watts, suffering often increases when we try to control processes that are meant to unfold naturally. Transformation is not something you force, it is something you cooperate with. This experience is not asking you to define yourself. It is inviting you to notice how change currently moves through you. Awareness does not demand immediate action. It creates space. And in that space, fear softens and clarity emerges. Stay with what you recognized. If this resonated, write in the comments, "I trust the timing of change." And if these reflections feel meaningful, subscribe. The next layer explores the shadow of transformation, what happens when change is resisted or overused, and how integration begins when fear and renewal meet. And then there is the fourth snake. This is the one many people feel immediately, yet hesitate to choose. Not because it is unfamiliar, but because it carries what has been postponed, suppressed, or misunderstood over time. This snake represents the shadow of transformation. The part of you that knows change is necessary, but fears what will be lost in the process. The identities that kept you safe, the attachments that gave you structure, the version of yourself that survived by staying recognizable. Those drawn to this snake often live with an unspoken tension, a sense that something is outdated, yet still being worn. You may feel restless without knowing exactly why. Old roles feel tight, old explanations feel thin. Yet letting go feels dangerous, not because the future is unknown, but because the past has become familiar. This snake appears when growth has already begun internally, but has not yet been allowed externally. The shadow of transformation is not resistance to change itself. It is resistance to uncertainty. You may notice patterns of delay, waiting for the right moment, gathering more information, preparing endlessly, convincing yourself that stability is still necessary. Underneath this is not weakness, but intelligence shaped by experience. You learn that change has consequences, that shedding a skin means exposure before renewal. The body remembers this, even when the mind argues otherwise. This snake carries awareness without permission. It knows what must end, even if you are not ready to name it. When ignored, it manifests subtly. Chronic dissatisfaction, a sense of living slightly out of alignment, fatigue without clear cause, irritation with routines that once worked, projection onto others who are changing more freely than you. These are not random emotions, they are signals from a part of you that is already moving. Transformation does not begin when you act. It begins when you stop pretending that nothing is happening. Choosing this snake does not mean you must destroy your life or abandon everything familiar. It means you are ready to acknowledge that something has reached its limit. Integration here does not require dramatic action. It requires honesty. The willingness to admit internally that a certain skin no longer fits, even if you do not yet know what will replace it. There is a common misunderstanding about transformation. Many believe it should feel empowering from the start. In reality, it often begins with discomfort, ambiguity, and grief. You are not only letting go of what no longer serves you, you are letting go of who you were while it did. This snake honors that complexity. It does not rush, it waits until readiness is real. As Alan Watts often suggested, suffering increases when we cling to fixed identities in a reality that is constantly changing. The problem is not impermanence. The problem is resistance to it. The snake does not resist its nature. It sheds because it must, not out of ambition, but out of necessity. Notice how this applies to your inner life. Where do you sense pressure building? Where does fear arise, not because something is wrong, but because something is ending? Where do you feel the impulse to change, followed immediately by hesitation? These moments are not contradictions. They are thresholds. The fourth snake teaches patience with the unknown. It asks you to sit with the discomfort of not yet knowing who you are becoming, to allow the old skin to loosen naturally rather than tearing it away prematurely, to trust that what emerges after shedding is not emptiness but space. And space is where renewal begins. At this stage, something important becomes clear. None of the snakes exist alone. You are not intuition only. You are not caution only. You are not intensity only. You are not delayed transformation only. Each snake represents a way you have learned to navigate change under different conditions. Conflict arises when one approach dominates, while the others are ignored. Intuition without grounding can become instability. Caution without movement can become stagnation. Intensity without integration can become burnout. Shadowed transformation without acknowledgement can become quiet despair. The deeper work is not choosing the right snake, but allowing these processes to communicate with one another. This experiment exists to make transformation conscious, not to force action, but to illuminate timing. Awareness does not rush change. It creates the conditions where change can happen without violence. Stay with this recognition. If this resonated deeply, write in the comments, "I honor the transition." And if you want to complete this journey into transformation with clarity and integration, subscribe. What comes next is not about choosing again, but about understanding how all of these forces can coexist without fear, guiding change with awareness rather than resistance. Now that all the snakes have revealed themselves, a more fundamental question quietly arises. What happens when these forces of change stop pulling in different directions and begin to work together? Most inner conflict does not come from transformation itself, but from resisting its rhythm. The choice you made was not an identity, it was a signal. Each snake represents a way your psyche has learned to relate to change at this moment in your life. Intuitive renewal, careful timing, intense confrontation, shadowed transition. None of these are flaws. They are adaptive strategies. Each one once protected you. Each one once made sense. The most common mistake in self-growth is over-identification. When you see yourself only as the one who changes quickly, only as the one who waits, only as the one who confronts, or only as the one who delays, imbalance appears. Intuition without grounding becomes instability. Caution without movement becomes stagnation. Intensity without integration becomes exhaustion. Transformation without acknowledgement becomes quiet suffering. True growth does not happen when you force change. It happens when you cooperate with it. Look at your life honestly. Where do patterns repeat? Where do you feel pressure building beneath the surface? Where do you sense an ending without yet seeing a beginning? These are not problems to solve. They are signals that one inner process is being overused while another is being ignored. Balance is not stopping change. Balance is listening to its tempo. From now on, begin to notice how you respond when transition appears. Do you rush forward, freeze, confront aggressively, or delay indefinitely? None of these responses are wrong. They are habits, and habits lose their power the moment they are seen. When intuition arises, trust it without abandoning structure. When caution appears, respect it without letting it paralyze you. When intensity surfaces, allow it without letting it consume you. When the shadow of transformation emerges, acknowledge it without fear. Wholeness is not choosing one way to change forever. It is learning how to move through change consciously. This experiment was never about finding the right snake. It was about recognizing which one has been leading unconsciously. Once seen, it no longer needs to control from beneath the surface. Awareness creates space. Space allows choice. Choice restores agency. You do not integrate all at once. You move closer to wholeness every time you allow change to happen without violence against yourself. The snake sheds its skin not to become something else, but to remain alive. If this reflection helped you recognize where you are in your own transformation, write in the comments, "I allow change to unfold," not to explain yourself, but to make the process conscious. Sometimes naming a transition helps someone else recognize one they were afraid to admit. And if you want to continue exploring these psychological experiments with depth and honesty, subscribe. This journey is not about becoming someone new. It is about allowing what no longer fits to fall away, so what is real can finally breathe.